Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your well-rounded math teacher, Mr. Picard, and we're going to talk about the Valley Fair project. Instead of doing a test for the end of Unit 6, we're just going to do this Valley Fair project, and we'll count it as like a test score. So hopefully you do well on it, and we can kind of go from there. So the whole thing with this is you've decided to become a structural engineer who specializes in roller coaster design. So you're basically going to design a roller coaster, and you're going to have these things in it. Some of the requirements: it must have at least 3 relative maximums or minimums, and we'll talk about that in a second here. The ride length must be at least 4 minutes or 240 seconds. The coaster ride must reach a max height of approximately 175 to 250 feet, and the ride dives below the ground into the tunnel at least once, but not below 50 feet, so you have to be above 50 feet. And it must start and end at the same height. So you need to create a proposal, and once you do your roller coaster, then you're going to write up a little proposal. And the main thing with the proposal that we're looking for is you have all the math lingo in it, the math talk, like maximums and minimums, like right here what we're talking about. How long was your roller coaster ride? How high and low did it go? Right here. And so the time basically is your domain, where it starts and stops, and the height, the low point and the high point, that's your range. Okay, that'll be your Y values basically. So here's my graph. I start at 100 feet right here and I end at 100 feet. That's one of the things. The highest I went, okay, is right here. Oh, I lost my red, didn't I? I don't know how I lost my red, but we'll go back to black then. So it talks about at least 3 relative maximums and minimums. Well, here I have a minimum, a maximum, another minimum, another maximum, and another minimum. So I have more than enough here. You could put in as many as you want. They only want 3, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So they want you to list them out and what they are, and we'll kind of get to that in a minute. Like this would be a max, and the ordered pair for that max, it looks like it's at, well, this is 140, 130. It's about, my X value is 135. My Y value, how high it went, looks like it's 150. Just remember, my highest point here is 150. That's not high enough to get the full credit for it. You want to be at least 175, so I'll make sure you go at least 175. So they want you to label these maximums and minimums. Like I could do this minimum right here. That looks like it's at 90. And what is it? Well, 0. Height is 0. That's one of my roots or my zeros, and you need to label those too. There's one, there's one, there's one, which is also minimum. Here's one, and here's one. So they want roots too. So another minimum, I should put minimum here, and that's a root, or we could call it a 0. So it's a minimum and a 0, that point, kind of different. Here's another minimum right here. And that is at, what is it, 50 for the X, and looks like it's negative 10, 20, 30, negative 30. Okay, so just kind of describing some of these things. Let's go over here. Answering these questions. List and describe all zeros or roots of your polynomial as single, double, or triple roots. Well, my first 0 here is at, looks like it's at about, we'll call it a 0. And that is at about 34, comma 0. And that's a single root because it just goes right through it. Same with this one. So one of my zeros, go over here. You list all of them. I'm just going to list one of them. 34, 0, and that's a single root. Okay, your double roots are where this is a double root right here. That's one of my zeros. That's at 90, so I'd go to 90, 0. And that's a double root. And I only have one double root in mine. Most of them are single. Like this would be a single root. This one right here, it kind of curves through it. It doesn't go straight through it. So like if this is my 0 line, it kind of comes down and flattens out and goes through it. This is called a triple root. So at, what was it, 150, 160, 170, 0. That's my triple. Okay, so just kind of labeling it, and you would list all of them. There's another one right here. Don't forget to label this one. Is all my roots, or my zeros, where it crosses the x-axis, and if they're single, double, or triple. And I kind of showed you at least one example of each one. Is your graph odd or even? Well, it starts up high. Like if this was to continue on here. Ooh, let's do that. How did I do that? There we go. Go back to red. It would kind of go up like this. This one kind of goes up, and it would probably go up. I would say this would be they're both going up. It would probably be an even degree function. If one of them is going down, one of them is going up, then it would be an odd degree function. So make sure you talk about that. Label the maximums and minimums on your graph, and then you probably should list them here also, but label them on the graph. There's another minimum, there's another minimum, and there's a maximum. Here's a maximum, so you'd list all those on the graph. Domain and range. Well, domain is your x values. And it starts at 0 right here, and it ends at, I said it ended at 270. So domain is from 0, and that's less than or equal to x, and that's less than or equal to 270. Or you could say from 0 to 270, whatever. Range is the height, smallest to lowest. So the lowest I go, I think, was negative 30. So this is negative 30. And the highest I got was 150. Now remember, it talks about you have to go at least 175 to 250 feet, so don't make the mistake I did. And then here, number 6, the last one, you're going to write a little paragraph naming your roller coaster, telling me why it's great, but then involve all the math. Like talk about the zeros, double roots and triple roots. Talk about the maximum minimums. Talk about the domain and range. Have that in your description somehow, some way. And that's kind of what you're going to be graded on. And here's the criteria. Number 1, the graph. If you want a 5, realistic graph is drawn meeting all the requirements, but it includes unique characteristics such as double roots, triple roots, loops, minimums, maximums, all those things. And then those questions 2 through 5, right there, okay? You have all these taken care of. You answered all these questions, and you also had it in the writing portion of it, labeled on the graph and such. The roots, degrees, and leading coefficient are answered correctly and described clearly. The domain and range is described thoroughly and related to the context of the graph. So all of that's in there too. And then number 6, your proposal. You do a good job writing the proposal, but make sure you have the math in there. Like I said, talk about the minimums and maximums. What are their values? Single roots, double roots, triple roots. You're going to talk about where it crosses the x-axis, your zeros. The proposal is written using all descriptions and gives reasons why the ride is unique or the best. So just make sure you talk about those math terms in there too, and talk about why the ride is so great, and the name is really good. It's kind of a scary name, or it's kind of a cool name, or whatever you want to do with that. Okay, so you can have a little bit of fun with it too. The more creative you are, and interesting you are, and you have the math in there, the higher your score is going to get. And it's out of a total of 15. So it doesn't have to be a ton of work, but just make it as interesting as you want, and just make sure you cover all the math talk. Okay. If you have any other questions, let me know in class, or you can send me a message and we can maybe do a Google Meet or something. I can help you out with something if you have questions. Have a great day, and we'll see you later.